there, caregivers and friends and just friends everywhere. This is Julie Hasselberger, and I am back. Welcome back to the Adapted Life podcast. I'm here bringing you episode 17 of my season 1. So this is episode 17, and today I'm going to talk about something that is very, very important and so neglected a lot of times when we are caught in the craziness of just our daily things we have to do, especially when we're dealing with a medically fragile person and it's kind of all on your shoulders. Anyway, communication. It's such a generic word, it seems to me. It's just encompasses so much, right? But when you're in my shoes, it's so easy to lose sight of communicating with the other people around you, especially like your partner or your family members. Um, and yeah, so I wanted to talk about this because like I said, it's something that's very, very important. And I don't know, it's just one of those things that I hear a lot, that people are struggling with their relationships because nobody's on the same page, everybody's overwhelmed. Just think about it. If you asked for help, do you think you would get some help? I mean, a lot of people will say, oh, no, they don't help me, or people are on their own. But I'm here to tell you that asking for help, even when it's hard, is really important. But you might be so tired, right? This is a scenario. So you're exhausted. You just spent a week in the hospital with your son or your daughter. You get back home. Everybody literally needs something from you. You're mentally exhausted, but they've all been sort of on hold waiting for you to get back. And this is me in reference to my personal situation here when I've had other family members, children, etc. So communicating sometimes gets really hard when you are faced with actually asking somebody for help. But, where many special needs families um, have a situation where an income has been sacrificed in order to provide care, there's just so much pressure and stress from all areas. So it's like you're working full time, but you're not getting paid. But housing costs, utility bills, car repairs, medical bills, insurance, taxes, loan payments, just getting groceries into the house, right? And in my case, over the past 24 years, mostly, I have been taking care of my son in what feels like 2 full-time jobs for no pay. You don't get any salary for doing what I do. And my husband works very, very hard, but he is still always on call in case there's an emergency and I might need him to help me out. So it's sort of like always there, and you're not fully free from it. It's always there, the just in case. Um, Before Daniel got off the waiting list for state Medicaid benefits back in the day when he was like 10, 11 years old, things were really, really worse for us. It was way hard. So we didn't really let everybody know. We didn't really communicate how bad. Very few people had an inside scoop to how hard it was. We just kept trying. I became a warrior at trying to find ways to to make things work, to just get help. And honestly, I've not been artfully gifted at avoiding debt and investing wisely and saving. I suffered from massive anxiety and very bad depression. So sometimes I just put it on a credit card, and that helped me get through the moment. And all the while knowing that I'm just going to have to deal with that later. It was terrible, and I could have just asked somebody for help. And when things got really bad, we finally had to consult an attorney. We had to get help from an attorney. And was that the end of the world? Felt like it. But it was the best thing we ever did, because once we consulted an attorney and began to get financial advice, so many different things started to get better. And he was a great attorney and he really helped us. It was very hard to do this because we had to come up with the money to pay the attorney, and we had to ask for help. So it meant facing the reality that we could lose our home and the growing debt from just trying to take care of all these medical expenses and take care of our family here in Newtown. Oh, it just felt so inevitable, like, oh, we're just going to lose everything. And we had heard stories of families who did lose homes and ended up, having to sacrifice everything and move to like a rental or an apartment. But we were determined to care for Daniel here in our home. We're going to figure it out. So, in a partnership, in my case, I've married for almost 30 years in October. There are two people with very different coping strategies. So, in my situation, I was feeling anxiety because I didn't want to upset or anger my partner, in part because I had PTSD from. So, when I was a child, um, I had a parent who had mental illness, and it was very, very traumatizing when I was little, and it caused a lot of issues with me, with fear and anxiety, over anger. So I would just try to avoid confrontation, which was never helpful, but it probably felt safer for me to just kind of like try not to have confrontation. So many a day, many a day would come over me where I would just feel trapped, terrified, but I had to force myself to communicate with my partner that things were not great financially. The whole money part of this, you know, it's it's just it's just an extra pain on top of the already pain that you're dealing with having to take care of this person, this child. It is not easy. There's no real way to get around the expenses, it's just not easy. So usually he would experience his own, hold on. I'm very sorry. I'm trying to keep my thoughts in order. So usually like he'd experience his own emotions like anger, self-doubt, worry, anxiety, and at the same time I was grieving the loss of my career and experiencing the constant discovery of Daniel's growing medical problems. And then I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia, PTSD, depression, anxiety, and compulsive eating disorder. So it was just all manifesting like all kinds of bad stuff. It was a storm of fear, my fear, John's fear, my husband, and how we looked at everything in our family was just so different. He was afraid he couldn't provide. I was afraid of him being mad. We were both caught up in the nonstop needs of our son, our other children, and the house and all of that. So I'm not sure when I started to realize that my fear and my negative thoughts were right. They were just literally destroying everything. It was probably during therapy when I started to like kind of deal with things. And by years of therapy, I mean like years of therapy. I'm still in therapy. And I started therapy to deal with my anxiety when Daniel was a baby. So there were times when I would ask for help with Daniel, but um, I had very few people in the outside world who would commit to that. You know, it was hard to come in here, and I mean, a lot of people, even today, I don't know how to describe this in a way that sounds kind. People often say, "How can I help you?" And they usually want to bring you a meal or send you some money or buy you some clothes, but they don't want to come over and like change a diaper so you can, you know, go out to dinner, like sit and, take care of all of the needs. That's something that everyone was just sort of afraid of. We had family members who were just too nervous because Daniel has seizures and he can aspirate and he has a lot of respiratory stuff and he needs to be, there's a lot of different interventions that need to be done. And when he was younger, suctioning and all that kind of stuff. So anyways, so that was a lot. So I just didn't have really anyone to help, and it was precarious with him. And I always had anxiety, even when we did get someone to come and give us a little respite, that something bad was going to happen to him with me not there. What do you think happens when two partners either bury their emotions or hide things from each other in the fear of the other one's reaction? And it just causes more problems. It's like a snowball effect. And it destroys marriages, and people end up getting divorced because things just become just irreconcilable, and you just fight and fight and fight. So we started communicating, and when we had to get a lawyer, I was absolutely terrified, but my husband surprised me and just being calm and saying, "You know what? We're going to get through this." And he did the opposite. So he did the opposite of what I was afraid of, and that was so pivotal for me, and we started communicating, hoping that we would understand each other a little more and why we do what we do or why we do what we have done during the 24 years of trying to adapt our life to be parents to a child that neither of us knew how to take care of in the beginning. So just crazy, massive disabilities, and how are we going to do this? I cannot stress enough the importance of communicating to others when you need help, when you are struggling. I did not do this enough. I was afraid, and when I did ask for help, it kind of felt like I was weak and we were weak. And I didn't actually think that we were weak, but he did. I mean, it's hard to ask for help financially because, especially if you're the breadwinner, you want to feel like you can provide for your family. And so, although our circumstances were completely way out of the ordinary, it still was hard to ask for help. And you want to be able to, like look like you got it all under control, but yeah, it's just hard. It's hard to keep that all in, and hard to, not feel guilty. So it's a teeter totter, back and forth, when practical bonds of when practical matters of your home start to dissolve the bonds of your heart. A lot of people, like I mentioned, they just end. They can't handle it, and they just walk away and figure it out separately. So my partner and I, John, we will be married for 30 years, October 3rd. 30 years. 30 years. We have the same wedding anniversary as the Obamas do, October 3rd, 1992. So I still love him as much as the day that I sobbed through my vows, and we have been through quite a lot. And assumptions can be very damaging. So if you're not communicating and you're just assuming things, assumptions can damage relationships. Assumptions can damage the joy between two people. Assumptions are very, very dangerous. It's like when you think about someone, you like assume they don't like you because XYZ, or you assume they're a certain way because of one thing you might have witnessed, or it's so important to just be open and communicate. And I've always assumed that I had to figure out a way to manage everything and manage everything on my own, all the bills, the expenses. So when it got really hard, I would just protect him and me, and I would just, I'm going to just get creative and juggle things and try to avoid confrontation because I could do this, right? I had 3 children to take care of, and it was incredibly hard to do this with one of them being medically complex. I didn't want to face anger. I didn't want to face insecurity, but I always faced it anyhow, sooner or later. And I know my thinking was very flawed because it just caused more problems in the end, just by like, I'm just going to handle this by like pretending it's not there, right? Vulnerability became a whole new world for me. Just even a few years back, when I really started meditating and looking inward to who I was and who I wanted to be and what my purpose is. And it's still something that I'm working on figuring out, but it's hard to really just plow into your fears and say, you know what, I'm not gonna hide and juggle and shuffle and pretend it's not there. I'm gonna face it. And it's the best thing I've ever done, but that's another whole discussion. So if you can communicate your needs, it's very difficult for caregivers or parents. So I think what I'm saying is that asking for help and communicating what you need is very hard for parents and caregivers. because it puts it out there right in front of your face. All the reality and the grief and the pain and the hardship and the fear and the inadequacy and the inability and the loss and the unknown and the lack and the hurt. So, it's like, I'm asking you if you can help me with money because we can't afford to do XYZ. And if you internalize it, like I said, it just all comes right at you. It's just so hard because you're trying to do such a beautiful thing, but yet it just feels so heavy. So, yeah, I wrote this like I think I was thinking in my head how it would sound. Hold on, let me take a sip of something. My husband and I went for a ride today in his father's pickup truck and took the dogs. I was feeling anxiety, so we went to Starbucks. Sometimes we have little coffee dates, and we did that this afternoon. It's beautiful here in Connecticut. It's just a perfect September day out there. Okay, so here's how it would sound. This is me in my head asking somebody for help, right? Ready? Hi, my name is Julie, and I need your help because I gave birth to a son who has a disability, a deformed brain specifically, that was caused when I was pregnant. A virus entered my body, and it prevented the cellular development of my son's brain from happening correctly. The virus, CMV, attacked his brain before it was even a brain. And then I lost my career. So I have to take care of my permanently disabled son with a rare disability. And I don't want to lose my house because my other two kids need security and a home. And I'm an emotional basket case. I don't know how to talk to my spouse because he just gets mad at me all the time. I've made mistakes, and now I just feel so tired from trying to fix everything and make everything work and be safe. I have physical pain raging through my body every day, and I feel ugly and fat, but I compulsively eat to soothe myself. And that has caused other problems. I keep trying to get things together. I've tried a dozen part time jobs and different ways to earn money, but none of them have worked because my son's nursing care is inconsistent. I don't often have somebody here to take care of him. So I never know what's going to happen from the minute I wake up to the minute I fall asleep. I'm always hyper vigilant with the baby monitor right in my face. I mean, I never get a break from it. So I'm trying to be a good mother. I'm trying to be a good wife, but I always feel like I'm failing. I'm feeling myself. I'm feeling my family because I chose to care for my son instead of my career. So the emotional pain it's dark and unfathomable, and I don't think my husband finds me attractive anymore. I have to keep trying. I just need so much. But never mind. I don't even know where to begin to ask for help, but thanks for asking. It's just so hard. It's just yeah, I didn't plan for this life. I did not know I was going to have a disabled child. And I was going down the mountain like a speeding train on fire because my negative thoughts and fears were creating more negative thoughts and fears. The outside world would see me and say things like, "Oh, you're so amazing. Daniel's so blessed. What a beautiful mother you are. God chose you because you can handle this." Just etc. All the platitudes, right? And then I would get home back into my bubble and then boom, anxiety, stress, guilt, like just all of it. And then there was the day that I think I just decided I'm going to stop the train. And perhaps it was enlightenment. I don't know. But I started learning about concepts like manifestation and the law of attraction and connecting with your soul's purpose, the importance of being in stillness, the importance of gratitude, being in the moment and slowing down. And it it didn't happen all at once. It just was sort of a shift. And I had already started communicating my story through video journal on my YouTube channel. I've been doing that for years. So a lot of times I would have no one to talk to. So I just talked to my camera like I'm doing right now. I'm looking in there and I'm saying, "Hey, here I am," right? I communicated on my support group, which I started back in 2008. I saw that I was not a freak when I was in my support group. I was part of a community of other amazing people who didn't feel so amazing. And you know what? I could ask for help. It was a great place to communicate. So finding other people who are in the same shoes, but not at the same point in their journey was really great because we're all helping each other. It's like being in a forum and you have a question, but somebody else has already asked the question, and then so you get lots of different answers. And this particular support group was something I started in 2008, called the Polymicrogyria Support Group on you. No, not YouTube. Julie, oh my God, what a day! On Facebook, right after I learned, right after like Facebook started, it was 2008, and there were so many, so many people who I guess didn't really have anyone to ask questions to. There was a Yahoo group, like an email group. But Facebook really started a whole new world for us because I started this little support group, and there was just like 8 or 10 families in there for a long time. And then all of a sudden we started adding families. It's a private group, we have administrators and moderators, and it's just simply for sharing and supporting each other. And now today, these years later in 2022, it has about 2,500 families. So it's pretty incredible. So anyways, I was part of that community and other amazing people who also did not feel so amazing. They're great. We all kind of can relate, and it really helps to find support in that way. There's a lot of people who also felt that they lost their identity and that their partnerships were difficult, or their families were difficult, or their children were difficult. They didn't have anyone to ask for help. They didn't know what to do. Loneliness, fear, wanting to feel again. So many things. So when I started writing about my experience and when I started meditating, it was very cathartic and therapeutic because I had no idea that I could find so much peace simply by breathing and just being in the moment. I would be on like a course that sorry. I would feel like I was on a mountain and I was in the moment and I was climbing, but I was turning around and looking down. Not not scared looking down like I was going to fall, but looking down with gratitude at where I have been, and then turning and looking up and just enjoying the journey. So we can literally destroy ourselves from the inside out if we keep all of our fears bottled up inside. It's not strength to hold your feelings and your emotions inside and never speak of what you need. It's actually dangerous. And when I began to tell my story in writing, speaking, and in silence to myself, it was healing me. And it's still healing me. It's still stressful. I had a terrible day today with just a surging anxiety that I can't put my finger on. It's just really, really bizarre, right? It just like takes over my brain sometimes. Communication. So, why am I talking about communication? It's such a broad word, but in the context of the adapted life, it means being okay with being vulnerable and being okay with asking for help. Communicating to your family, it's just too difficult. It's just too difficult for us to come for the holidays because we can't get our son into their house. Communicating with your mortgage company that you got behind, you need help, like a modification or a government program. Communicating with your doctor about what you're experiencing, you know, making sure that you're taking care of yourself. Communicating with your spouse or your partner that you would like to work on your relationship, on improving things rather than watching them fall apart. Releasing, letting go, sharing, making space for joy, for solutions, for hope, for abundance, and help to find you. So ask for help. If you have a child like I do, or you're caring for someone and it's early, but it's causing some of the same stress I discussed, look for support groups. I did. I couldn't find any in the beginning, so I created one. And later I found even more local groups that not only helped families with disabled children, but provided respite fellowship, prayer groups with other parents also dealing with the same kind of things. But however it is, communicating what you need is a tool that's going to open up abundance. You just never know. I mean, so sometimes I talk to people like I was having a colonoscopy and I was at the doctor's office and I'm a very big talker. And somehow I get talking about Daniel, and the nurse who was taking care of me after my procedure, she left me a little note and she said, "My friend so so has been dealing with the grief, the loss of her, I think it was her spouse or her son passed away, and she has a handicap van and a house full of equipment. So when you started talking about your son, who is about the same age, I thought of her, and I asked her if I could give you her number, and she said yes. So if you want to call her to see if, you just never know where you're going to make connections, and that's kind of how it happens. So as I discussed in the last what was I going to say? I'm doing this recording today, even though I'm having tremendous anxiety and fibromyalgia symptoms, because that's why I want to do it. I've been slow to get back to recording, and if I sound a little off, I'm going to let it be because this is the reality of what I'm dealing with, and I can't let it stop me. So, welcome to my crazy Juliisms. If you're struggling, friends, and you feel the symptoms of depression, anxiety, hopelessness, and those feelings don't stop, please also consider going to your doctor, talking to a professional therapist. You're not supposed to be sad and blue for too long. It's the worst that can happen is they can say, "Look, you're probably okay. This is situational," or you might really actually need some help, and it's really important. So I just want to stress that enough, that taking care of someone every day for all the days is a lot for a human being to do. I mean, we're not wired for doing this nonstop every day forever. It's a big job. So we are not alone in this adapted life, and we are navigating it. I don't know about you guys, but did you ever hear about this poem? It's called Welcome to Holland. I never liked that poem. People, oh God, when Daniel was first diagnosed, everyone was sending me this poem, Welcome to Holland. Oh, you're gonna love this. It's all about, I don't know. It's like a platitude to me, but there is some truth to it, right? You want to go to a different place, some really luxurious place, but instead you end up in Holland. I'm not going to read the poem because I don't even know where I have it. I don't really want to read it, but as you adapt to Holland, you discover, oh, Holland's not so bad, even though I wanted to go to Paris. Now I'm here, but you discover some other things and truths, miracles, and beautiful things that you never would have experienced, right? So the more you can communicate, share your needs, your feelings, the greater the chance that you're going to discover that Holland is really just a mindset. Your life can be brighter and expansive if you choose to let it be brighter and expansive. So even if it means that you still have to sit down, call insurance companies all morning, fill out mountains of, this hurts when I say this even, mountains of state forms for benefits, evaluations, robbing Peter to pay Paul this month, working on an IEP plan, going to one of those meetings, administering rescue seizure meds at the most bizarre moments, fixing your broken dryer downstairs, trying to call your cable company, taking the dog out before he poops on the floor, the Wi-Fi is not working, helping that happen, running to the grocery store, all of those things, like all that stuff. It's just stuff, and it's not worth letting it steal your joy. And if there's just something that you can't do, make it known. I mean, a lot of times with John, I'll be in Daniel's room, and sometimes there is a point where it's like, um, I just need a hall pass. I gotta leave. It's too much. I'll get to a point where I have been on my feet all day. I'm in pain. Daniel's really difficult, and I just need to take a break. And he'll come in and give me, if he's there, he'll give me a break. So each day I start meditating, and I do this before my son wakes up and when the nurses arrive. Usually it's like 6:30 in the morning, something like that. I communicate my intentions and I pray to God and I pray to the universe and I do all different types of meditations depending on what I see that speaks to me. I'm still working on my own bigger picture here and the relationships and the visions for the future. But for purposes of adapting all these years, I learned I had to ask for help, and I'm still learning how to like communicate what I need. And it's really hard sometimes because my husband will say, "Well, you just need to let me know what you need," or "You need to just tell me what you need me to do." And it's like sometimes you just feel like going, we're all here in the house together. We all should know." You know, it's like, why do I have to be the one to be the boss of everything? And I have to let that go and remember he's not inside my head. So I did over the years begin to realize that I needed to ask for help. And so even though it was really hard, we would, ask for help financially if there was someone who might be willing to help. And that's really hard because you feel sort of like a loser. It's like, I can't do it myself. Can you help me? And then I turned that kind of feeling into I'm fighting for survival here, so now I need to be an advocate, and I just got determined and just stayed resilient. It became perseverance and strength, and it didn't just happen overnight. I wasn't born with these gifts. God didn't, pluck me out of the world and say, "Look, you're a superhero, so here you go." I developed these gifts and I'm still climbing up this mountain and I got bills and I got medical issues and I got stress and anxiety. I have caregiver problems. My house has issues. My bank accounts are very small. I have one in college. I have relationship obstacles and I have financial pressure, concern over sick and aging family members. And I'm I'm climbing up that mountain, and you know what? Dale's right there on my shoulder still, and he's gonna be there as long as I am able to carry him. Somehow the light and the love is just charging my Tesla butt, like I'm like a electric car, just keep going. Just remember to charge me up once in a while. Ask for help. Talk to your partner if you have one. Talk to somebody who you're close to. Anything that you might think you might need to just lighten your load or give you some respite or make you laugh, just communicate. So if you don't have a partner, maybe there's a friend or a family member or a cousin or a pastor. I mean, there's got to be somebody somewhere who might be able to give you a hand, hopefully. Um, your therapist, your pastor, and of course, ask God, ask the universe, ask yourself. I don't know. The point is to communicate positively what your needs are and let go of the fear and the negativity. Try to let go of it. Try to open up to receiving abundance and letting things in, being grateful. I mean, it's just amazing when like the littlest of things can you just something happens. I mean, I've had times where I'm just in desperation and I've reached out even like to friends in the community and all of a sudden a check will show up in my mailbox and I don't know who it's from, but somebody was kind. And um and I think that's amazing, and it's not weakness, it's the beauty of people and connection. So even if you don't receive what you need, you put it out there because you don't know. You may just get more than what you need and more abundance than what you realized was possible. You can only win, and you and your loved ones are worthy of endless abundance. Keep going. Don't give up. I get it. I do. I'm a caregiver too. So, oh, yeah, I'm reading my notes here while I was writing this. I'm like, well, maybe Julie, you can ask everybody to help you because um, I don't have sponsors yet on my channel. I'm hoping that this this podcast will grow and become, terrific and lovely and a wonderful support. But right now, I'm just asking if people could check out Daniel's Special Art Shop on Etsy and, take a look. That helps to support our channel, and it's also supporting Daniel and our vocation for him. We make art together, and I adapt art for Daniel, and then we have prints for sale and other merchandise on there, and it's a nice little shop. So I have the link in the show notes for this podcast. It's Daniel's Special Art Shop on Etsy.com. And you could do that, or you could visit the YouTube channel that I have and just subscribe. That could help too. Share this podcast with someone else that might be a caregiver who might need some support and friendship from somebody else like me who is also in this world of caregiving. And I know there's a lot of us out there. And by caregiving, it could be anybody. It could be someone caring for an elderly parent or someone who, just was sick and needs help. Anybody. The point is just a community of people who have had to adapt their lives to overcoming obstacles and in a situation that they had no idea would be for the rest of their life. So, devoting your life to someone else is a pretty incredible thing. So, it deserves a podcast to talk about it. Here you are. Here you are. Here I am. All right. I'm here for you. I'm hoping that my community and friends will grow and we can start to offer each other lots of fun ways to make each other feel better and be abundant and grateful. So I just want you to know that I'm grateful that you are here listening to my little talk about the tool of communicating and asking for help, however that looks for you. This adapted life community is a place for us to connect and share. So I'm deeply grateful that you are here with me. And I just want to say thank you. So I'll see you next time for another episode of The Adapted Life. And it's going to be great. See you then.